Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk episode 625, recorded today, Wednesday, the 1st of July. Goodness, that's proper summer. Although it's actually nothing like as hot as it has been in previous weeks, which is kind of quite nice because it gets very warm in here. When you see the flat roof, it's like a radiator when the sun's been on it for a few days, and it's our cheapy and noisy air conditioning just cannot cope. So I'm quite pleased not to have it on, which is all right. This is the podcast to do with music technology, recording, electronic music, production, live shows, all that kind of stuff, even a bit of streaming. I mean, because we're streaming to you. We're streaming to you actually via YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. If you want to, we've stopped doing the pre-show on YouTube just because of production constraints. We actually just pre-show is on Twitch, so twitch.tv/Sonicstate, I think is the one you want. We also want to say thank you very much to iZotope, who are providing a new prize. In fact, we're going to be giving away a copy of Stutter Edit 2 this week. Those of you regular viewers will have seen BT on the show, sort of not talking about it, but then just letting slip a few facts. But now we're here. But anyway, let's say hello to everybody. We'll start off with let's start off with Mr. Yoad Nevo there in Nevo Sound in London. Oh wait a minute, is that the Minilog XD? It is mixed suite. Yoad actually asked me a few weeks ago, can I measure the underneath of the Minilog here to see if it will fit in his Neve? And now you have a new master keyboard in your Neve. Yeah. So you've got a Minilog XD in your master section. Yeah, and it fits like an O.J. Simpson glove. Oh wow! Awesome. Yeah, it's a tight fit, but it sits in perfectly. And actually, I had the BeatStep Pro in here, but what I did, I don't know if you can see it. I actually took out a bunch of faders because I can bypass them, and for summing I don't use them, and for recording I don't use them. And I actually fitted the BeatStep Pro. No, you awesome. Can't really see it. I can't see that. I can see where it is, but I can't quite see how it's fitted. So it's fitted. It's like super solid. It's like a part of the desk now, and it's actually quite cool because it's on just here. It's very accessible, and all the controllers and stuff. And this keyboard is really good because I used to have a 2.5 octaves keyboard, and just having 3 octaves makes so much difference because you can actually play. That's so fun. And I'm really pleased with the sound of it as well, and with the custom oscillators and stuff. I've been playing around with those. It sounds pretty awesome. That's so funny. So those 3 parts, those are probably the cheapest parts of your setup, or of your desk. If they were to go wrong, they're the most affordable things to replace. I'd imagine. Yeah, and I had to actually, because it's such a tight fit, and the power supply connector, I had to take to replace it with an L-shaped one, and I had to do a bunch of stuff to make it properly fit. And so also, good. The on-off button is, you have to press it, so I actually had kind of fixed it so it's always on, and obviously turned off the auto power off. Yeah, the auto power that'd be a drag if you have to dismantle your desk to turn the synth on. Exactly. But I'm really pleased with that. Yeah. The things people do in lockdown, eh? Well, Yoad, lovely to see that you've followed through on that. All my part was very small, just a few measurements, but I'm glad it's fixed up for you anyway. Yoadnevo.com, do check out his stuff. And we also have Mr. Rich Hilton, who's there in Connecticut, and the birds are singing, so that must mean it's fully summer. I think the last few times you've been on, actually been on recently, but before that it's always been kind of chilly. Because it's winter, you get heavy winter there. So what's the summer like for you out there? Nice.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous today. Very nice.
Excellent.
We've had a bit of a cooling after some rain, and the birds are enjoying themselves close by the window here.
Of course, Rich is often on the road with Chic, which is paused at the moment. But now, I think last time we spoke, you were working on, or you were gearing up to working on some production stuff. Have you got anything in the pipeline? You've been working on things?
I have been working on things, and I've actually been working on a lot of different things, but it's fun. Yeah, I'm doing. None of it's done yet, but I'll let you know.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to that. Lovely to have you, Rich. And flipping over to the south coast or somewhere around there where the storks are, Dominic Hawken, aka Mr. Wiggly.
Good afternoon.
Producer, artist, and app developer. How the devil are you? You well?
I'm good. Yeah. I've been carrying on developing apps really, but more VSTs. I was on last week as well, which is fabulous to have me on twice in 2 weeks. So I haven't really done that much in the last week, apart from the same as what I was doing the week before. But I love Yoad's enthusiasm for his new bits of kit. It's fabulous. You can just imagine him getting so excited about getting the off switch going and all the rest of it. It's just it's infectious. Really, really good.
Well, ain't it just? I mean, that's the sort of things that keep us going. What have I been doing? I put 8 gigs of RAM into the computer. So I've got now, 16, actually, an extra 16. I've done, I can't think. I've had the Dreadbox Typhon, which I've got. It's not sounding its finest there because I've got it doing lots of FM. But
all those baked beans.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty
Everybody
much.
goes the same place.
What else? ModiX had the ModiX. We've got some stuff going on. I can't remember actually. It feels like a long time ago, but obviously it's only a week, and I've completely lost track of it. But lovely to have you all here. I guess the first thing to do is actually start with the Dreadbox Typhon, which was announced I think the Thursday after the last show. So they're basically. It's kind of, they've gone for the light-hearted approach. 30 steps in analog, good sounding and portable synth setup. There's Yanis there, who's the stripy t-shirt. He's the boss, the designer. And they're very Greek because we're seeing all the Greek background. So I think we get to it in the end. So yeah, Cinevibes. Basically, the Typhon has analog synthesis with digital parameters as well, plus some Cinevibe. I think it's 12 algorithm Cinevibe digital effects, which are actually pretty cool. So yeah, and then the good news is that he can play, because essentially it's a USB, I think it's an A type, which is the larger USB connector, which I think actually is a really good idea, because the thing about the tiny little micros is they snap off really easily. So it's bus powered effectively. So 2 oscillator analog synth with a 24 dB filter. Sounds very tasty. And there it is. In fact, I think I played it. I got a little bit of. I did a Fun Friday with ModiX. I think I played a little bit on this. It's a bit ambient, but you can hear some of the bottom end in this. That's it in effect. I'm adding some in real time now. Can't hear what's going on anymore, but yeah, I won't play anymore. I'll see if I can find my headphones, because now I can't hear anything. Where's it gone? Disaster. Talk amongst yourselves while I find my headphones, because I'm completely deaf.
Well, what everyone missed who wasn't on Twitch was that thing sounding incredible. The bottom end coming out of that thing that Nick was playing before you guys arrived. It's just amazing. It sounded great. Sounded really good. Can you hear us?
I'm back. Sorry about that. That was a bit of a... I need a slightly longer headphones. What I did is I spun my seat round to play Typhon here, and it pulled my headphones out, and then I couldn't find the end. But yeah, this is the news. Brand new Dreadbox Typhon. And I don't know. I've quite fallen in love with the sound. I mean, I am a big fan of Dreadbox stuff anyway, so that's no secret. It's got that thing.
Can I suggest something regarding headphones? If you switch all your headphones plugs to XLRs, then you can always extend them using a mic lead. So because the XLR has obviously 3 pins, so you got left, right, and
that's true.
ground, common ground. So I did it on all my headphones, so I can just, whenever I need an extension, I just use a mic lead.
That's not a bad idea, apart from, I think putting an XLR on that might be just a bit...
Well, you can put the connector, you can put it in your pocket.
That's true. I need a studio set of headphones that don't fall out. That's very true. So who else is excited about the Dreadbox then? I know, Dominic, have you got any Greek synthesizers in your pantheon?
No. And every time I see them coming out, I really want them. And I heard you playing around with this just before we went live on YouTube. So the guys on Twitch probably got to hear it. And it wasn't so much the farty noise. It was the really, really deep sounding, just the bottom end coming out the stuff. And it seems to be like quite a unique new instrument. We're combining these sort of looped different lengths of sequence bits in there as well. I mean, it just made me feel a bit inspired, to be honest, because we had that amazing reverb, a spring reverb with feedback yesterday, which was genuinely to me like a new thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure other stuff combines the ability to sequence parameters and stuff, but not really in a small box like that. They've just used the sequence of it in there for sound creation, and the oscillators sound brilliant. I haven't had a chance to listen to the effects that much, but yeah, I just think this thing's really, really neat. They're very inspirational, very, very unique, quality company, I would say. Everything that I've heard come out of them just sounds expensive, sounds big.
It's got a sort of vintage vibe to it. There's something about the oscillator and the filter that just those two things in the VCAs, that's what's analog in this. And they did do the Medusa, which was a digital hybrid, but this feels like they've got it more right. This is the sequencer is very simple to use. I haven't really played with it too much. It's got three modulators. That's 3, not 5. 3 modulators, which can be envelopes, LFOs, sample and hold, or a programmable step, and that goes to multiple destinations. So you flip between, but at the same time. So each one goes everywhere if you want it as well. So that's kind of interesting. So it's not just like 3 mod slots; it's 3 sources, multiple destinations.
Yeah, that's a really neat idea.
And I only just discovered. I was happy with 3x3, to be honest. And then I was like, oh wait a minute, why is that still doing that sound? Oh my goodness, it goes everywhere. It's kind of cool. Yeah. Yes, I can thoroughly. I don't know. Yoad, have you heard any of the Dreadbox stuff on your big speakers? Because I think you should.
No, not yet, but I think that I'm about to hear the Typhon very, very soon, because also it's so small that I can probably find someone to...
Taking channels out. You're going to start cropping channels and
pulling teeth, yeah, out of the desk. And it sounds... And also, the effects sound really, really good, and I'm contemplating on. I said to you before that I want to maybe hack the mini log and to go into the effects section. Somehow, having had it actually in here and hearing it on the big speakers, the effects are nice, but they're not worth the effort. But on this little thing, it sounds like it could be an interesting...
They do sound kind of good. There's some good extreme stuff here. I don't know Cinevibes how well regarded they are for their algorithms, but I think they're quite high resolution, these ones. And the other thing that's cool about this is it's got an external input, so you can use this as an effects generator as well.
It has an external input.
Yes, yeah. So that kind of makes it even more straightforward.
Okay, then I'm definitely going to very seriously consider it.
Okay. Also, you could just get the
hack it even.
No.
Well, you could get the NTS1, right? I think because that's the same effects chips as a mini log, is it?
No, we're talking about the.
Sorry, no, because I jumped back because Yoad was saying hacking his mini log to get an external socket in it. So I think you could just do that by 99 quid on the NTS1. But yes,
true.
If this
but I'm not. But I'm not sure if it's really, really worth it, because the effects are kind of okay-ish, but...
not okay, fair enough.
Gotcha. Sorry to subtract.
All right. Well, Rich, I don't know. Have you experienced the Greek the Greek synthesizer a phenomenon yet? Is that something?
Oh no, only vicariously through you guys and videos and such. And the Dreadbox products really do interest me, and they seem to sound great. And I quite enjoyed watching you enjoy working this thing while you were doing your Friday jammy thing.
Yeah,
that was really cool, and I could feel your enjoyment of it. And I watched some other videos, listened to other sounds being generated, and it's just a pretty. All of their stuff just sounds fat and warm and big and clear, and
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Everything I've heard.
I don't want to turn it into a complete Dreadbox love fest, but the thing that I found is when I first heard the Erebus, which was the first time I'd experienced that stuff, just the oscillator, you just go, my goodness, what is it about this that sounds? Why is this so good? And everybody, isn't it? Surely an oscillator is an oscillator is an oscillator, and obviously that's not the case. But whatever it is that they do, the special sauce they have, because obviously they made the transition from through hole to surface mount, and everybody was a bit nervous about that. But it doesn't seem like there's been any great loss of woof in this particular transition, or whether they've compensated. I mean, I have no idea about that kind of thing. But yeah, the Typhon, I don't think it's shipping just yet, but it's going to be about €349, which actually for a Dreadbox product is cheap, because normally their stuff's around about the €500-600 for the Typhon, for the Erebus and the Nix 2, the Erebus 3, they're sort of up that range. So this is a good price. I mean, it's not as flexible, it's not as discrete. I mean, you don't get a balance between, you sort of get a balance between the oscillators with this morphing switch. It reminds me a little bit of the Waldorf Rocket, where you sort of spin between mixes of footage and mixes of waveforms, and there are various different configurations, and then you can tune with the other one. So it's not there are compromises, but so far while I've been playing with it, I haven't felt like it's completely hamstrung because they chose this choice instead of the other. So that's the thing that's kind of cool.
Do you know if it responds to SysX by any chance?
I don't think it does, but I don't think it needs to. It responds. It's just everything's CC mapped.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, it's programmable.
So you can build an editor.
Yeah.
So I can build an editor which will be more detailed here or something like that.
Yeah, you can, because each of the pages, I mean, every single parameter everything on the slider has a CC number, and also so does
the knobs.
I think so. I have to double check that, because the like I say, it's got 256 memories. So yeah. Anyway, congratulations. I think they're sold out already, so you're going to have to wait till the next batch. But, I mean, I'm pleased for him. Yanis is such a lovely chap, and I know Greece has been going through some pretty hard times. And, the fact that they're making a success of things is nice to see, and they're just lovely people. So yeah, I thoroughly recommend. I know it feels like an endorsement, but I suppose I just like their stuff, and they didn't get it wrong with this one. I mean, to be fair, like I said, I did have an issue with the firmware just bursting white noise occasionally, but they're aware of that, and it's not final release. So I've just realised I haven't put the link in the show notes yet, so I'm going to put that in there, pop that in, and pop it into into all the places it needs to go. Here we go. So I do apologise for that. Okay, right, let's get on to some Liquidsonics business. Cinematic Rooms, this has been big release. I mean, Liquidsonics are... This Matt Hill is probably, I would argue, one of the world's leading experts in algorithmic reverbs, high-end algorithmic reverbs. And this is their latest quadraphonic. This is by a chap called Synth Preset Steve. I mean, it's hard to get the exact effects on this, because obviously it's over YouTube and streams, but there's a lot of parameters in there. So, and everybody seems to have been going crazy. Unfortunately, the deal on $129 instead of $199 for the standard edition ended yesterday, so it's just a poor selection of time. I'm going to come to you first, Yoad, because I mean you are a DSP kind of whiz, I suppose. You understand what goes on behind these things, and Liquidsonics are kind of very well thought of. Have you had a chance to listen to this?
A little bit. I mean, I read all the blurb, and it's it doesn't say anything new. You know, it says that the algorithms are really this and really that, and the diffusion and all that. But you can say that about any algorithmic reverb. So it's basically a surround reverb with, I believe, 10.2 or outputs. Or,
that would presumably be in the Pro version, I'd imagine.
And the fact that they post about the fact that when you change the decay time, then all the channels kind of ratios change accordingly. Yeah, that happens with every surround reverb, including the one we did, the R360, which we did like 15 years ago or something. Albeit that was a 5.1 because that was the standard at the time. But it's another reverb with good marketing. From what I could hear, it doesn't sound exceptionally good. It's very convenient to have the option of mixing in for Dolby Atmos and stuff like that without kind of hacking the situation. Because when I do stuff like that, then I use R360 and I have to do some manipulation and kind of matrix stuff to get it going. It's nice to have that within one box or within one plugin rather. It looks interesting. The price is reasonable, so I can say that.
Okay.
And it makes I think it makes sense for someone who does a lot of surround and film music and post-production.
Yeah, well, it seems to have been getting quite a lot of props from. I mean, our friend Russ is partly behind the marketing side of it, but I mean, it seems to have been very much based on merit, from what I can gather. I mean, I'm not, realistic tweakable reverbs is not something that I tend to gravitate towards. Is this something that would be of use, I guess, in post perhaps, or in high-end music production? I don't know. What do you think, Rich?
Well, I think I'd like to hear it properly in a properly outfitted surround environment so it's hard for me to evaluate.
Yeah.
The demos all sound good. All the Liquidsonics products I've heard have sounded really good. The one that's supposed to be based on the Bricasti sounded fantastic, actually. And if I was looking for an algorithmic one of those kinds of reverbs, this would be high on my list of things to investigate. I have at least two of them that I like for that purpose right now that I'm using.
Algorithmics.
So what I call that kind of reverb. To me, it's postmodern lexicon, as apart from postmodern TC or postmodern whatever else EMT. So it does that thing. The ones that I've heard of theirs do that algorithmic thing very nicely. I like the ones I'm using, so I'm not in the market for one.
Ah, okay. But it's nice. It does seem nice. Dom, are you looking for a high-end algorithmic reverb?
I'm lucky enough to own a Bricasti here, and I'm very much a plug-and-play kind of reverb user. So I probably only use 2 or 3 presets on it. They sound amazing. And frankly, they should for the price as well. But were I doing anything surround sound oriented, I'd still be that same plug and play kind of guy. So I think this would be for me. They do a 14-day trial and I haven't downloaded it. I had a real problem finding decent demos actually on the site. They're quite hard to dig in and find. So I'm going to get them for going to get a 14-day trial, try it out. But the bit that Yoad mentioned, which is if you've got to do a surround sound mix and you're not maybe doing a high-end game or a high-end film, you just want to produce a surround sound Atmos version of something you're doing. Generally, the trick is, use the rear speakers and delay them a bit and put a bit of reverb in the back and just make it sound bigger. So you're not specifically saying, I want this object over here to sound like it's perfectly over here. You just want to make it sound bigger. And that, I think, is where this really comes into its own. You don't have to work that hard to make it sound really good. And then if you want to make your whole room smaller, but you've already set up a different setting at the rear of the room, to the sides, to the front, that the algorithm will tweak accordingly, and it will pull in everything else nicely. It won't actually revert to your preset again. So not knowing that much about reverbs apart from that, it would be the one for me. I don't know if I was doing Dolby Atmos constantly whether the Pro version would be what I need, because I simply haven't got anything to compare it to. But sonically, I'll definitely get the trial, because you've got absolutely nothing to use. And even if it sounds good in standard stereo, it really, for me, it would really depend on how much resource it used on the computer, because I save a lot by not using reverb plugins and outboarding it digitally to the Bricasti. So if it was usable, then great, have it as a second reverb or a master one if you don't have the luxury of an outboard.
Yeah,
system.
that's a good point. Good point. I mean, imagine 4 channels, or or 10 or 11 or of reverb processing are going to be fairly chewy, even in today's modern processors and whatnot. As we often find, we're not kind of getting to the edges that often. Well, I'm not saying it's not done, but okay. Liquidsonics, it's $199 now. So if you want up for the standard, $399 for the Pro, if that's what you want. Cinematic rooms, there you go. So what's the time? So let's do a competition. We've got a competition because well, I'll tell you who we've got. We've got a new prize this week, and it is Stutter Edit 2.
From the mind of composer and electronic music pioneer BT, in collaboration with iZotope, Stutter Edit 2 brings movement to your mix, faster and with more versatility than ever before. Stutter Edit 2 lets you slice audio into razor-sharp rhythms and moving effects, creating exciting new rhythmic worlds within your music. Instantly recreate the famous stutter effect in your samples, sound design, and beyond, all with a single button. Control a vast array of studio-quality effects, all linked to the timing of your stutter edit, making it easy to add filter sweeps, panning effects, pumping dynamics, and more. Stutter Edit 2 is the fastest and most exciting way to dynamically elevate your music productions, sound design, film scoring, and more. Head to iZotope.com to download a free 10-day trial, and check out our other Creative Suite products too.
Yes, indeed. That's BT Stutter Edit with iZotope, and we're giving away a copy of that this week. If you want to enter to win the competition, we're looking for. I think BT used it in his description of one of the reverb algorithms, which was brain melting effects. So brain melting effects. That's the FX effects rather than the full word as one word, and hashtag Stutter Edit 2, hashtag Brain Melting Effects, hashtag Stutter Edit 2 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. Pop those in a tweet, and they will show up in a search, and then we'll pick a random number from the list of the people that show up, and that's how we get the winner. So if you want to enter, you need to be on Twitter. Last week's competition, we were going for Ozone 9, and the winner for that is somebody called Buttons Knobs. I could use this. Your Best Mix, Ozone 9, Sonicstate, iZotope Inc. So if you want to get in touch if you want to get in touch at Buttons Knobs, there's so many terminologies going on here and hashtags and ats, then please do, and we will get the copy of Ozone 9 over to you. Right, so what's next?
Can I just say something about Stutter Edit 2? I purchased it, and it's amazing. It's really, really good. Besides all the amazing stutter stuff that you can do with it, the interface is nothing but genius, because you can you have a graph for every parameter, which you can edit in very, very much detail. Which is a really, really good concept. But the algorithms themselves are really, really good. And what I did is I initialized it, which was quite a hard task to do, because there's so much stuff, and you have to kind of lock everything so it doesn't move according to the scale, to the graph. So neutralize that basically. And then I created presets with just a flanger, just a chorus, just a delay, each one of them is really nice. So I'm going to use it besides the stutter and all these wonderful capabilities, just as a multi-effect, which is really good for. So I'm really enjoying it.
Excellent. Oh, glad to hear
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a chance to play with it too much, but yeah, by all accounts, I mean, I know BT was very enthusiastic about it, but I mean, that's his general demeanour. So one would hope so. One would certainly hope so. So yeah, I suppose we've got to bite the bullet and really discuss the news. Certainly in the UK, Korg and Roland fined $5 million over UK price fixing. This was between 2015 and 2018. I think Roland gets fined £4.5 million, which is a big chunk of change, and I think Korg 1.5, and it's to do with fixing online prices, or certainly manipulating them. I don't know the exact details of it, but that it's official. They've been, the Inland Revenue have said, no, you can't do that. It's interesting because in the UK, you can't fix a minimum price. Like I think in the US, you're allowed to do minimum MSRP, which is minimum street price, and nobody's allowed to go below that without the express. So it's I think it's a slightly different market structure from what I understand. But yeah, bad news if you've got to write a check for £4 million, I think, for any of them. I don't know what there is to discuss about this because it's sort of, I don't know. What, Rich, do we get this kind of stuff in the US? I don't know if it's the same.
It's been a long time for me since I was anywhere near retail and saw what these things do. But when I was, which was half a millennia ago, there was no such. What's called illegal price fixing in the U.S. has to do with preventing a price from dropping below a certain point, which is, I think, not dissimilar to what I think I understood by reading about what's happening in the article that you cited. However, and what they would do is they would limit their dealerships basically to people who would agree to do that, and that's apparently illegal because. Generally, so what is considered manufacturer's suggested retail price, MSRP, is the listed, what we call list price, which is their full boat, what the manufacturer says they're going to get for it, not the street price.
The MAP, isn't it? Is it MAP that's I'm confused with? Minimum advertised price?
I'm not even sure what the acronym is, but what it represents is about 55 to 60% of, in other words, the cost to the retailer is generally somewhere around 55 or 60% of whatever that MSRP is. And where in between the actual selling price falls depends on who the retailer is, how many he's bought, things like that. Things like that. But so price fixing is illegal in the U.S. to the extent that I think it's somehow illegal to set a price below which you may not go that is above the cost price that you paid for it.
Right, okay, because otherwise, I mean, people could use selling stuff as loss leaders, other people's products as loss leaders, so they can
absolutely.
Say if you wanted to buy the Typhon and somebody said, I'll sell it for €200 because it will bring a load of new business my way, and some of those people will stick, and that's the way
Exactly.
I think it's designed to prevent that kind of activity, right?
Right, and yet they still find ways to blow out products to get you in the door, and usually what they're house branded products that have some other name that they've purchased from some vendor in a far off land. And that's just retail. That's just what you do to get people in your store.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the thing is it just sort of feels like a bit of an ouch considering. I mean, I think what with the world situation and the sort of what seems to be a dire economic outlook, bizarrely, the music industry seems to have been doing quite well because people are at home, so they've got things to do. So there's been a bit of a surge in sales, so maybe they'll be able to pay the fine off. But it's never a good idea to be in that situation. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, Yoad. I mean, it's a bit of an uncomfortable subject, I think, all round.
Yeah, well, I can say that I contributed to Korg my 500 quid or so for buying the mini logo. So
you've played your part.
Exactly. Haven't bought a Roland thingy for quite a while actually, but yeah, I don't know much about this side of things, but it seems to me that would Amazon even exist if those rules were actually kept? I don't know.
as we know, I mean, the thing about having one major retailer, because this is, that I think maybe what they were trying to do. I mean, I've heard it described as this. In many, they've been busted for it, but in some ways, what they've actually been doing is trying to stop the minimum price falling below for online, so that the bricks and mortar can kind of compete. Because with Amazon, Amazon, if you're the size of Amazon and you just go, we'll buy all your milk, say for instance, let's just use that, but we won't pay more than 12 pence a pint or a litre for it, and then we'll sell it for whatever we want. Do you want the business or not? Because if it's not us, there won't be anybody else left to buy your milk. So there's this sort of weird formula which I think is difficult, and I don't know whether or not that was the idea behind what they were doing, which is obviously illegal. But I don't know. Is it protecting the market to a degree? It's very hard to know, Dominic. I don't know what you think.
That you hit the nail on the head. I think. I mean, there's nothing good about this. I mean, the legal departments of companies like that should know to do better. They don't make any more money from doing about this. They still get the same trade price. So when Roland or whoever sells a box into a store, generally the trade price for that store will be dependent on how many they order. They might have a better deal going on, but Roland will still make the same amount of money whether they tell that store to sell it at a certain price or not. It's just a race to the bottom. I mean, I think it's quite important that the retailers themselves actually behave, because a difference in £2 or £3 on it makes probably makes a big difference to the people that sell it now with online. You look at it and you say, well, who's the cheapest? Are they legit? Yeah, I'll get it from there. There's situations in retailing like electronic goods, like TVs, where people can afford to sell TVs at less than cost price, because if they sell enough of them, the manufacturer will kick them back a bonus at the end of the year. So and they make their profit from that bonus. So if they sell 50,000 TVs, they'll get whatever £1,000 back in a bonus, which constitutes their profit. So as long as they sell at the absolute bottom line, they'll get the more sales, they'll hit the margin, and they'll get enough back. Now that destroys the industry. It destroys it for bricks and mortar stores, but it also destroys destroys it for
customer service.
So, yeah, absolutely. I was shocked because I did some consulting in that industry, and it's like, how on earth is this? I know what the trade price on this is, right? How on earth are they selling it for less? So it is a race to the bottom. It's a weird one as well, because when you look at it, they say allegedly Yamaha admitted to colluding directly with GAC, Guitar and Keyboard, but got immunity for telling the guys what was going on. I mean, this is really messy.
It's not
to drop a retailer in it like that, and ultimately, you're going to fine Roland £5 million. Well, they're going to pass it on in their cost price, which will pass it on to their retail price. They have to. So, it's just, there's nothing good about this. Ultimately, They shouldn't have done it, and there's nothing good come out of it at the other end, to be honest.
No, I guess not. No, that's
if I may just add one other thing. Cost is not one thing. Cost is dependent on how much you're buying at all levels of this process. So the guy who's buying 500,000 of them isn't looking at the same cost price as the guy down the street who's trying to run a family-based retail shop, and because he's not buying 500,000 of them. Sure. He's buying a dozen of them, if that. And so that's also part of the equation as to why it's hard across strata to compete.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It becomes very, very messy. And so, at a global level, if there's a strategy to kind of go, well, we can sell 1 million of these things to distributor or person A, then the guy in the shop's not going to get them. Or they might have to buy them off this other guy who's going to take his cut, or it's going to go to increase the overall number he's getting on the price break. I mean, it's insanely complicated, I suppose. That's the thing, isn't it?
And now product isn't really physical product anymore anyway. It's all this virtual serial number kind of shit. So it's not even like you have to go anywhere to get it or anything. The whole game has changed since the time I'm kind of comparing.
Yeah, that's true.
Still.
But yeah, like you say, Dominic, not good news at all, really, anywhere. Okay, right. Let's have a look. Maybe we should let's do this guy, because I think this is a feel good story. So this is Armin Kupper, who is in Germany, in Leidberg, where apparently there are lots of pipes being laid. I don't know how long that is, but I suspect it's very long. I don't know if it's maybe doing a big U and bouncing off that end point.
Well, it's easy to calculate if you time.
That's
It's
true.
330 meters.
A
Is it?
second, exactly.
So a second is at 330 meters. So in fact, that's probably 150 because it's got to go 2 ways.
That's less than a second. That sounds like a half a second,
So
or
150.
7.7 or something like that.
That's to the next valve in the pipe, which they haven't turned on yet. It's just such a great.
I'm guessing that.
Sorry. Go.
I was just going to say, I'm guessing it's the same as that other pipe with a block on the end, so it's going all the way down and bouncing back. And they've literally it would be great if it was a U shape. That would be awesome. But I've got a feeling it's just a long pipe with a blank on one end at the other end.
I wonder what it's like playing.
100.
I wonder what it would be like playing in the CERN particle accelerator. that would be awesome. Yeah, it's just a lovely story. Armin Kupper he says this is the advantage of living in a town like Leidberg. He says where there are abundance of pipes positioned in the pipe. He doesn't go on to expand on why that might be, but it just. Yeah, he just mentioned. I'll bring the webpage up there. So
allows him to play at different tempos.
Yeah, sometimes I just can't stop playing. The nice thing is when it cools in the evening, I sit down in the pipe, still warm from the sun's rays, and enjoy the sunset playing the saxophone. And it's like, what a marvelous pastime. I wonder whether he has to, jump over any fences or anything to get to that. But it's just, I think it's a great idea and just lovely. But I suppose the next thing is those spaces. I mean, we occasionally do these, Rich, don't we? Where there's some massive acoustic space like under a dam or an empty aquifer where there's just sound.
Silos were popular in the United States at one point.
All right.
Silos.
Grain silos. All right. Okay. Yeah. Didn't you have a story about going to a cave where there was a big?
Yes.
Yeah, I seem to remember.
Yes. And it was just my wife and I on this tour with this young person. And so I warned her that I might make some odd noises along the way because I would see these spaces and I just wanted, sure, you give it the usual, but I want to give it I want to yell into it. I want to hear it. And because it was just the two of us, I had the opportunity to do that. And it was, audio geek heaven for me.
If only you had an iPhone-based impulse recorder on your system.
Yeah, it's too early.
I use clapping in places where where the reverb is interesting, and then I bring it back. I usually try to do two, which sound similar, or as much as I can get it to sound similar, and then I chop them up, make it a stereo file, and load it into my into IR1 or convolution reverb and create a reverb. And one time I was in Köln, in Germany, and there's the famous church there, and the sound there was amazing. And I thought to myself, I just have to do it. I'm sorry, I just had to do it. I had to clap there, and everyone was looking. But
so can you do that with just a clap then? You take the recording of the clap and.
So ideally, if you want to create a proper convolution filter, you need a pure spike, like a pure digital spike, which is obviously impossible because even if you got a huge speaker, it won't produce a pure spike. It will have ripples and things like that. So what we do is we generate a sweep, 21-second sweep. You have to be quite quiet. The place has to be quite quiet, and you generate it, and then you deconvolve it. So once this process is over, because you have the original sweep and you deconvolve it, and then you end up with a pure spike and just the tail.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's how we did the IR1 impulses.
But you can get close to it with a clap, can you? It's like a poor man's spike.
Clap, exactly. It would be better to burst a balloon. There's also a thing that generates spikes.
Starting pistols, spikes. Weren't they? The things that people used to use in the back in the day. Slightly dubious. No, it's not loaded.
A wood clapper. That's good.
the shorter it is and the less harmonic content it has, because your palm, it has some resonance and it has some length to it. So once you run it into the reverb, the signal will be somewhat smeared and diffused already. So if you want to have something which is usable, the best way is to use a sweep and then deconvolve it to create the perfect impulse.
Oh, thanks.
Interesting.
I like the idea of Rich taking the balloons with him and maybe a clown nose.
Well, I did start from claps in any given situation I was in, but I would also want to yell, shout into it, and try different frequencies on the way in to see. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a cavern. It was one of these caverns with stalagmites and stalactites, and just a lot of liquid around, and some of them were just these extensive chambers. It was remarkable what it sounded like in there.
Oh yeah, well, those sort of spaces can sound it. The one that I always remember, that a friend of mine used to work for the defence industry, and he got to visit some underground spaces that are top secret, that are bigger than anything you can imagine, where they just pile all this kind of weird James Bondy equipment that didn't get made from prototype or whatever it is, and these huge, just, endless kind of concrete spaces that are, you get the same in Music Messe. I remember last time I went to Music Messe, you go to one of the halls that's not been occupied and it's just a huge concrete space, and you just shutting the door as you come in, you just get going, it's just this astonishing full range, it'd be a nightmare to do a sound in, because you get like 27 seconds at 30 hertz, it's never going to be good for a sound engineer.
Well, we have played those.
Yeah, I played those as well.
There's a space in New York that was the original stock exchange at the turn of the 1900s that's all made of marble, and it's got a ridiculously high ceiling, at least 3 or 4 stories high, with a dome. And we've played in there a number of times, and I'm pretty sure at least one of those gigs is still bouncing around up there.
Yeah, it's just the thing for like percussive dance music, right?
You're right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I've done that. Yeah. I've probably told the story. I did. There's 2. One was in Liverpool. There's Liverpool University Hall, which is marble, and I wasn't a sound technician then. I was a sound engineer, and they just turned up and dropped the PA in the middle of the room and said, "Off you go." And I'm like, "What? I don't know this room." That was a nightmare. That was a very sweaty day, that one. But the worst one was the bus depot in Berlin, which I'm sure I've talked about before. I don't know where it is exactly in Berlin, but it was on the east, and it was after the wall had come down, and I was touring with a funk band, a 10-piece funk band, and it was the same thing. It was like, here's an enormous space. We've cleared away like a whole bunch of 1950s cobwebby coaches, and here's where the gig will be. The rest of the space is just vast. There's the PA in the middle, a big pile of it. You decide where you want it to do and how you want to tune it. And I'm like, oh my God. And that was a 9-second at 30 hertz kind of place. That was, that was no fun whatsoever. But
we played a church in Rotterdam that was like that from the 1400s that rings for hours.
Right, yeah, that's when you want to do the choral gig, Rich, isn't it? The kind of, the Gregorian
or the ambient
version of Everybody Dance, yeah.
Or you bring one of those Dreadbox machines and start making ambiances with it, kind of into a... Yeah.
What a great idea.
You play the delay in the room.
We'll play to the... Yeah.
You can save CPU by using this reverb.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I can't remember where that started from. Sorry. That was the
saxophones.
Starter
saxophones.
pistols.
We've got a couple of one left. Does anyone want to do the Spitfire thing? Is that something that we want to cover, or should we do the?
It's all right.
All right. Or we could do the nylon piano.
It's socially relevant.
It's socially relevant.
Yeah, true.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Well, okay. Well, I will start. Let me see if I can find. So basically, Spitfire teamed up. Brilliant scoop. They teamed up with HBO. They got a scene from Westworld without the music, which just had the effects of dialogue, and they created a competition where you could submit your score. Great idea. Beautifully, you could legally get assets which were the SFX and the dialogue, but no music, and you could score it. I think Dominic, you had a go at this, and great idea. J.J. Abrams was a judge. They've got a bunch of really sort of highfalutin names: Jonathan Nolan, Lisa Joy, Ramin Jawadi. I mean, like, you know, really, and they got 11,000 entries. And they closed it. They got closed on the. I think it closed on the. What was it? The 3rd of June. Deadline was 3rd of June, and a winner announced on the 19th of June. It's 4 minutes long. 11,000 entries equals 733 hours, which is 100 man days. Or, you know, however many people are listening full time. Say if you've got 4 people listening, that's 25 days each. You know, you get the picture. And that wasn't obviously J.J. Abraham hasn't got time to listen to 733 hours of competition entries from Spitfire. So it's a real victim of success. So logistically, it was an absolute nightmare. And we've done a competition before, you know, for the theme tune, and that's hard enough, you know, and that's with, you know, maybe 50 or 60 entries, you know. So 11,000. I mean, I don't know what you do. I mean, how do you deal with that? I mean, it's resulted in a load of bad feeling. Everyone's going, "Oh, I didn't like the winner's a guy called David."
If you can play this,
I can't play it. All right, maybe not. Let me see if I can find where. Well, we'll find out.
HBO?
I mean, okay, I'm just trying to see. Anyway, there's a genre change, and it goes all chiptune, which is my least favourite genre of music. But people were getting uppity about. I mean, you know, the judges choose what the judges choose. I mean, they're directors and they're people who make those kind of decisions. So that's the way it goes. And there's been all sorts of. You entered, didn't you, Dominic? And
I did, and it was.
I probably can't
really
play your
fun.
entry either. Yeah. But great
No,
opportunity,
you could probably
right?
play the music on its own. Yeah, what fabulous idea. It was really good fun. A lot of people put a lot of work onto it. There was no limit. You could be a pro, you could be a child. It really didn't matter. And it was great to have fabulous J.J. Abrams made piece of video footage with all the effects in. And honestly, there were loads and loads of entries, but way more. So there's been kind of a couple of things associated with it which have drawn angst, I would say, none of which I would say of these two are particularly valid, but there is one thing that's a bit valid, which I'll come to last. And I think that there's moaning because people don't like the winner. Well, that doesn't matter, exactly as you've just said, tough, you know, they did, that's absolutely fine. There's moaning because it seems that the winner had worked with J.J. Abrams in the past. I think that's tough, actually, and slightly of a misfortune perhaps, and they might have thought about limiting or making it in the rules before they started. I get the feeling that's an unfortunate accident, but again, not against the rules. But there is this voting thing. There are people saying that their tracks didn't get listened to. Now you can see you had to upload it onto YouTube with a tag, and you can see on YouTube Analytics exactly when it's been listened to. I don't know of anyone who've had 1 or 2 views, both of them being them viewing it. I certainly had about 500 views on mine, including 5 or 6 right around the judging time. But there are people who've said, yeah, no one watched it. And I think that's a valid criticism, because if you've got 11,000 entries instead of maybe you were banking on 2,000, I'm not sure, you're going to have to change the way the whole thing's judged. And it was set up to be the guys at Spitfire would choose a shortlist, and that shortlist would go on to the crew, the JJs and all the rest of it to go in, which is pretty typical of what goes on. And how they got that shortlist, I think, should be clarified, because clearly the team at Spitfire ended up with a lot more people judging those 11,000. And I can't believe anyone can sit for more than 5 hours a day listening non-stop to this 4 minutes 20 as well. So, you know, less than what you made out. And actually giving it any modicum of appreciation or kind of judgment. So I'm guessing they got 30, 40, 50 people and farmed them out to them. But I would like to know, that's all, because it's different to what was proposed. I very, very much doubt it was physically possible for them to have the guys at Spitfire making a shortlist. And that's not a problem either, just come clean about it. But there was lots of kind of posts going up with people moaning, and then a few people at Spitfire going back saying, well, basically, you know, we chose the winner, it's great. But I think they're kind of missing the point. It was what changed to get 11,000 entries to arrive at the end game. But ultimately, like you say, it's their competition, they chose the winner. If I'd won, clearly the judging process would have been perfect. You know, hopefully someone listened to it, and you know, you've got to suck it up, right? But yeah, it was really good fun to do, and I was a bit miffed. But you can't moan that you don't like the winner. I mean, you know, that's crazy. But you can moan about the process if it's merged and a bit murky and unclear, I think.
Yeah, I
So there you
suppose
go.
so. I suppose so. I know, Rich, you really don't like competition based around musical stuff. I know in the past you've said that, but I mean, I don't know whether that applies.
It's useful to remember that scoring for a competition is different than scoring for a movie. Even if you're using a movie as the vehicle through which you're going to score, you might not do exactly the same things to win a competition as you would do in the context of a larger piece of film. That said, as regards this thing, I listened to the runners-up in the winter. I watched their video. I thought all of it sounded very professional and very well conceived. Whether I agreed with all of the choices or not, when do you anyway? But everything was to a very high standard. And if they had 11,000 entries, I would bet you that somewhere between 50 and 250 of them were really, really good. And that's just a very hard place to be in as a judge when you've got, say, 10 people, each of whom have 10 that are being considered, and they like 3 of them each, and some of them don't like each other's choices. And it's a very, we went, I mean, to some extent, I mean, on a much simpler and friendlier level, we went through this with choosing the theme for your show intro video.
Yeah.
But it's I have to think that a lot of really, really good work was submitted, not the least of which was Dom's. And you know, you're not always going to agree with who won. And I thought the guy who won took some risks and did some very interesting things, and switching to that whole 8-bit thing in the middle of that grand orchestra context was a very bold thing to do, a very competition-worthy thing to do. It was a bold choice, and he won on it. And I got to hand it to him. I mean, all of it was good, but you know, he made a bold decision to do that, and it worked for him. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And it's situational, and it's based on the director and the film and everything else, the context. So cool. Good on y'all. I like the fact that they did it. Unfortunately, they got deluged, but you know.
Yeah, I don't know how.
And people got upset.
I don't know quite how. I mean, obviously, you know, it's very difficult because I mean, just the physicality of it. I don't know. I mean, good problem to have in some ways. You know, having that many people want to win and that many people who are essentially potential customers. Yeah, thumbs up all round. I would say from that point of view, 11,000 potential customers. Yes, please.
Yeah, I think it's a good marketing move, or it was intended to be a good marketing move, but maybe they've kind of, you know, got overwhelmed by the sheer number of competitors. Yeah, I'm not too keen on competition when it comes to music. I don't watch all the you know, the music competition related shows on telly and stuff like that. There's something about it that doesn't feel, that I just don't like, you know. And also, yeah, it's hard for a few people. Obviously, it's been the classic role of the A&R people in record labels to get a lot of stuff and deciding who they're gonna move forward in the pipeline and such. But yeah, I don't know.
It is an interesting. I must say, it is a very interesting kind of problem to have. I mean, just when you start working on those sort of numbers, it's like you get an entry. I mean, you get an entry that has to be qualified, and then 800 hours is 800 hours. I mean, you know, that's like what, even at $10 an hour, that's going to cost you $8,000. You know, that's a painful lesson to learn. But how would you, Yoad, I mean, how would you limit that? If you were going to do a competition, you thought you would get that many, how could you, could you just say we're only going to listen to the first 10? Or, I mean, how could you do it? I don't know how you would.
I think it's okay to delegate it to people that you trust, who are experienced, and that will just sift through, because I presume that 80% of it was not really worthy. But even the 20% or 10% or 5%, we're talking about hundreds. Yeah,
I suppose so.
I think you would switch the competition and you'd say, crikey guys, what a brilliant success, 11,000. We need to get it down to 1,000 by public vote. and then we'll
Yeah.
take the last 1,000 and we'll review it like that. I think that's
Here's the playlist.
to not move the goalposts and to not extend the judging time. I think that's a legitimate kind of criticism. But even so, you can't criticize. It's their ball. They play with it. It's great. And the winner was great. Also, the winner didn't cover the thing all with Spitfire samples as well. There's hardly anything on there in Spitfire.
Well, the only thing about that, if you do a public vote and you've got 11,000 items, if you've ever seen, I mean, we've all seen those Facebook votes. What's your favourite colour?
Yeah.
The top one always gets the most votes.
Yeah.
Just because it's that one. Nobody gets to. I only got as far as 10,099. I mean, just did you really? Yeah, difficult.
You got to move the goalpost at that point because you clearly got to judge it in a different way. I mean, there are other ways of doing it, but
I suppose so.
it's,
I personally,
the
the one I really like was the last of the runner-up, Oleg Troyanovsky, which was very. It's very emotional because he did a load of very. This just spoke to me. I mean, I'm not saying he should have won. I'm just saying the one that I liked the most because he did lots of really sort of when the characters changing genres, which the winner sort of took to a very literal degree from orchestral to chiptunes. He just had all this sort of dreamy sequence, and it really influenced the way the pictures behaved. Whereas all the other stuff just felt a bit. That's what I'd expect from anybody who was a scoring, thing. That was a bit more sort of emotionally connected to it from my point of view. I would have voted for that one if it had been my choice.
But you say that that's the one you like the most, but how many have you listened to?
Well, probably about 10. So,
Yeah.
So, right. That's true. Yeah, okay, that's a fair point. I mean, how could you? I mean, it's a bit like the old joke on auditioning Fairlight snares, isn't it? At £200 an hour in the studio.
That guy from the Cars, I remember him took 2 weeks drawing snare drums into a Fairlight downstairs.
Wow.
I was just like, honestly. Sounds good on that track, Who's Going to Drive You Home? But yeah, it took him 2 weeks to draw that.
Well...
Well, I could tell stories that Rick Ocasek told me about making that album. But before I go there, as it relates to Spitfire, I suspect it very quickly came to a point where they had to decide whether they wanted to continue to be in the software business or they just wanted to switch to the competition business. And I really do think it got to be a very simple equation where what did we do this for? What are we trying to achieve here? And how quickly can we get out of this obligation to make this thing the Olympics? And I honestly think that as a practical matter, they hit a wall where they just had to decide, we're not going to spend more than X number of resources on figuring this out because it only is going to do us so much good, and we've only got so much time and so many people to do it with.
I think that's
and as to the Cars, I made an album with Rick Ocasek in 1990, and he told me a lot of stories about working on that album, including the fact that he would never get in a studio with Mutt Lange ever again.
Wow.
He said that to me. May he rest in peace, Rick. And he told me that they spent 7 days working on getting the sound for the bass part in the song Magic.
Jesus.
Wow. They hired in every amplifier they could get in Europe and in England. And it was apparently everything was handled with that level of painstaking obsessive-ness.
Wow.
He should have judged the competition.
He should have judged the competition. That's got to be a title. Mutt Lange should have judged it. Yeah. I always wonder because I
don't really want to publish a title that says Mutt Lange is on some. No.
All right, fair enough.
He's still alive.
You can't defame the dead though, so you could use Rick.
Yeah, no, all right, we'll leave it. Because he's married to was married to Shania Twain, wasn't he? And produced some of that stuff. And I always wonder how
they made
goes,
a Def Leppard album together.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, her album kind of sounded substantially like Def Leppard's preceding.
Yeah, no, I suppose so. But have you ever heard the kind of career trajectory of Shania Twain? It's really worth listening. It's a complete rags to riches kind of. It's really interesting. Yeah. She's an astonishing individual. You kind of literally got her to, it was much like. Oh God, not Anyway, I'll never remember now. Sorry, it's gone. But yeah, it's a good story. Anyway, that's probably a good time to stop before we get into anything libelous. But thank you very much for everybody. It's been good fun as ever. Don't forget, if you want to win a copy of Stutter Edit, we're looking for the hashtag Brain Melting FX and the hashtag Stutter Edit 2 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. We will be giving away a copy of that next time. So yeah, thank you very much. Dominic, thanks for joining us. Anything you care to plug? Any videos coming up?
No, nothing at all. Just check out Mr. Wiggly on YouTube. Just go search Mr. Wiggly, follow on. And if we're talking about big spaces to make reverbs, the last decent video I made was about making them inside incinerators and stuff. So there'll be some newer stuff out shortly. So yeah, all I can ask is you give us a follow on there, please.
Yeah, well, that seems like a fair enough request. And of course, Mr. Yoad Nevo, thank you very much for joining us. I hope now you can. I mean, the thing is now you've got that Minilog XD, isn't everything taking so much longer because you've just got that infinite reverb going all the time? So you have to wait for it to stop before you can move on.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
And how about you? You're back into Mix World, or you got some time off?
I was in Mix World, throughout lockdown and everything, because most of my work is done remotely anyway, and it has been. I do miss writing and producing with people in the room, but I get a lot of mixes sent and a lot of mastering stuff sent, and even some production stuff, which is, it's great that people trust me and they send me vocal tracks and stuff, and I produce the stuff, the song from start to finish here, get them to revocal or something like that. So yeah, I've been doing it since before lockdown as well, so there's nothing new. And I continue to work with Waves. We do a lot of stuff, and we release some really cool products, and there's some new ones on the pipeline. So yeah, been busy.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. It's always a pleasure. And of course, Mr. Rich Hilton over there in sunny Bird. If you were to be a Twitcher, we call it, in the UK, Twitchers are people who wander around the countryside with binoculars and notebooks, sketching birds and listening to bird songs and whatnot. That sounds like you're in the perfect place for that.
Yes, this area of Connecticut is beautiful, and we have a lovely sort of open space here where the birds hang out, and you can hear them at a distance, and you can hear them close up. And
yeah, you sure can. And they sound, it's lovely to have them. But Rich, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much to everybody.
Great to be here with everybody.
Yeah,
thank you.
Great. And wherever you are, stay safe, stay sensible. Obviously, as the restrictions drop in some of these places, it doesn't mean you should go partying and kiss everybody. Just be safe and be sensible. Anyway, that's it. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you all next week. Take care.